to the Dyer's Garden series. I'm Gwen McCausland with the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum, and today I'm at the beautiful McCrory Gardens, a botanical gardens on the campus of South Dakota State University. This is a three-part series where we talk about how to process wool, how to gather plants and to make them into a dye pot to color your wool, and then we'll identify various plants that you can grow in your garden for your dye pot. So let's begin. So first we're going to talk about the tools that you need to mordant your wool. Mordanting is where you take mineral salts and adhere it to your fibers so that when they go into the dye pot, the dye attaches itself to the mordant salts. You can dye wool or other protein fibers such as silk in a dye pot without a mordant, but it would then wash out and fade in the sunlight. Mordants help it adhere and be light fast and color fast. There are many different types of mordants, but the most popular mordant is aluminum sulfate. Aluminum sulfate or alum is often found in any of your grocery stores where they sell canning supplies or in the baking aisle. You can also find it in your pharmacy. Cream of tartar is also found in the baking aisle, and these two types are often used together as a mordant in the hot dyeing method, which we'll talk about today. These are both non-toxic, but we do not ingest them. You can safely dispose of them down the drain as well when you're done with your mordanting of your wool. You also can use iron or iron 2 sulfate, but the problem with iron is that too much iron as a mordant can often damage or weaken the wool and over time may cause it to be brittle. So it's often used as a post-dyeing mordant or a modifier. Copper is another mordant that you can use. Using powdered copper can be dangerous to ingest, and so it's better to use a mask and rubber gloves when using that material. You can create a copper liquor that you can use as a mordant by just soaking your copper pipe scraps in a jar of vinegar until the solution is a bright blue. Another natural mordant is rhubarb leaves. You can use the oxalic acid that's naturally found in the leaves of the rhubarb as a mordant, and it sometimes will be used just strictly as a dye. But you need to be careful. Acid is poisonous and can irritate your skin as well as your nose, so you make sure that you're in a well-vented area so that you don't inhale any of the vapors. And then you dispose of it as your local authorities seem fit. The first step is to take your dry wool and wash it. You need to make sure that all of the dirt and lanolin are out of the wool. Once it is dry and clean, you need to measure it.
For every 100 grams of clean, dry wool, you will need 8% alum, or 8 grams, and 7% cream of tartar, or 7 grams, for the hot method. Soak the wool for at least 1 hour to open up the fibers prior to adding it to the mordant solution.
So first you take your alum and you measure out your 8 grams. You place that in a cup of boiling hot water to dissolve. And now measure out 7 grams of your cream of tartar. So if you were to have 200 grams of wool, you need to have then 14 grams of cream of tartar, and you need 16 grams of the alum. And you stir to dissolve. Place this in a pot of cold water and you stir in the alum and the cream of tartar. Like I said, this is the hot water method. If you were doing a cold water method, you would do the same thing but without the cream of tartar, and it would be 10 grams of alum per 100 grams of wool. So with your cold pot of water with the dissolved alum and cream of tartar, you then get your wet wool and you squeeze out all the excess moisture. And you place that in the dye pot. It's important that if you start out with cool water, that you have cool water in the pot as well as in your soaking pot. You do not want to shock your wool, so you don't want to go from hot water to cold water. Bring this pot up to a simmer of 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 80 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. Then turn off the heat and let it sit for 2 to 12 hours. Oftentimes, I just let it sit overnight. The next morning, you're ready to dye.